Your ass in the bed and get rolling here with CMarty Fit, the CMarty
Yes,
Fit
sir.
of the
Let's get
day.
moving.
That's it. Get moving. You know how Johnny talks, get moving to create some momentum and get yourself moving here today. It's time for the deep dive where we talk about how to build systems that create real momentum and long-term results. We got our guest today, Kyle Thomas. And listen, we're not talking about just adding more to your plate. You can't always add more to your plate. You keep adding it, something's going to break. It's about getting intentional with those right habits that move the needle in your career and life. And our guest here today, Kyle Thomas, knows all about building that kind of momentum. These days, Kyle helps people create clarity, cut distractions, and build frameworks that make career growth inevitable. But Marty, Johnny, Kyle, let's be honest, man. Most routines fail and they fall apart before they even get off the ground. So Kyle, with the entrepreneurs and startup founders and the folks you've worked with along the way, just bottom line, Kyle, glasses off for this one. What's the biggest reason that routines fail?
Yeah, that is a very good question. I think speaking from personal experience, I think that the biggest thing is that you try to bite off more than you can chew right from the get-go. So like thinking about like John and Marty in like the workout space, you go in and you're like trying to do from day one deadlifts and you like every single thing. You're trying to throw all this weight on the bench press or whatever. And then the next day you're sore or you're hurt or whatever. And then you can't go to the next day. And so it's like, instead of trying to like have this massive load that you put on yourself right off the get-go, what's like the minimum amount of work that you can do today that you can maintain consistently, going back to what we were talking about before. And then once you get in the habit of that and you build a system around that, all right, cool. Now let's ramp up either the volume or let's adjust the whatever that is. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned is just like do the minimum viable amount, because that's going to keep you coming back to it. It's going to feel enjoyable. It's going to feel easy, whatever. You're going to look forward to that. And then you can ramp up the volume or whatever the habit is. But that's one of the biggest things that I've seen.
It's incredible. I got to jump into Marty and Johnny here quick and throw it to these guys. I'm 52 years old and I'm still learning that myself. Like I during starting this whole morning show and starting this whole new business, I've had to adapt some new routines. And John, Marty, as we've been building this together, there's been times during our journey where I'd get up one week and I'm trying to do 8 things and I failed at 7 of them. It finally was probably about a few months ago where producer Flynn's like, just do one thing. I'm like, yeah, I'll just get the button sorted out today. And it was funny because I just figured out one but 52, not 12, not 20, not 30, 52, still figuring it out. Marty.
That's not what I was going to say, but I did want to add a quick comment. You do a lot of stuff at once, and I can see it rattles you sometimes. So
yes,
shout out to Coach Flynn for that. But I just wanted to add that a lot of people get caught up in doing what seems sexy or what sounds good. So Keith, our favorite one, and John too, we like to joke about the cold plunging. You have to do what works for you. You don't even have a desire to cold plunge. You just heard somebody on Instagram say it. So you want to cold plunge. Do what works for you. Stop trying to do what's sexy. I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah.
And I think another thing, going back to why the systems fail, is like in my coaching and mentoring, people want to immediately go to creating a system around training the body, when in actuality, we got to train the mind first. And so when you create the system around the wrong thing, it doesn't yield the results. So why the hell would you continue this? So you got to understand, what are you creating? You got to create the system around that thing that moves the needle forward the biggest and the fastest. That way, when the results start coming, you're good. That system's in place. You just stack another habit on top of that. The system continues to grow. But finding where you need to create the system. Don't just create a system. Create the system on what is going to move it forward the biggest and the fastest.
This is where it gets really good for Kyle. John and Marty, I don't know if you guys know this, but this is where our message gets quite awesome, frankly. So the real challenge with routines isn't just starting them. And we got to know Kyle with what I'm going to say next through something he posted for our Creator Spotlight. It's just keeping them alive when life gets messy. Right? Anybody can crush routines and goals when things are smooth. We talk about winning teams, we just win it, and it masks, it band-aids the failures along the way. But what happens when the wheels come off? And that's where the real work starts. And Kyle can relate to this. Kyle, better than most. You've just hit a full year without having a drop of alcohol.
Nice, brother. Very nice. That's good shit.
And that shift, Kyle, didn't just change your weekends, frankly. It reworked your mornings, your priorities, how you interact with your children, how your children see dad, and how you show up for your family, your business, everything, Kyle Thomas. So when routines, and let's be honest, they always will, what's that smartest way to reset without losing momentum and take this idea of I'm stopping drinking, I'm resetting everything. Lean into this accomplishment, Kyle Thomas.
Yeah, so like the rationale behind it, I wouldn't say I had the healthiest relationship with alcohol ever since like I started drinking long ago. And then when you get older, I have 3 kids, I have an infant business. It was just like too much to juggle. And I found that like, it was not adding anything to my life, right? Like it wasn't like anything was particularly better. Like the exact opposite was true. It was like creating more anxiety. I wasn't as productive, and it was more taking away from that like quality time with family or friends or whatever. And so yeah, I eliminated that. And I think that like the interesting thing with that was initially I think that you think that everyone's going to care or that you're not going to be able to have fun or whatever. And I think like the big thing for me is just like realizing, oh, now I can wake up at 5 a.m. on Saturday and treat it like a Tuesday and do the thing that I really want to do, which is work on the business and go and exercise and take the kids out to the park or go in the woods or something like that. Yeah, I think that you had mentioned, I think no November or the month of no or whatever. And I think that oftentimes people think, oh, I have to add all these things in order to be more productive or to get where I'm going. And oftentimes it's more about subtraction than it is about addition. Like subtract down to just like what is the essential things, because the big thing for me is I have way more energy. I feel like I've tapped back into the person that I was, like the creative energy, the excitement. I always think about like, what did I do before I was going out and drinking all the time? And it was like, oh, you'd play ultimate frisbee with your friends in high school, right? You like, and were you having more fun then, or were you having more fun, I don't know, at the bar or whatever? And not to like, you know, say that there's anything necessarily wrong with that. But for me, where I'm at right now in my life, like this is 100% the right move. And it's been nothing but positive.
Real quick, I just got to say one quick thing. You said earlier, you said I didn't have a good relationship with alcohol. And here's the thing. This is my belief. Nobody does. They just tell themselves they do. No. Because alcohol is poison. And no matter what you say, there's not a benefit in turn. Now, granted, maybe a little loose, maybe you overcome some social anxiety. I get that. But if you just learn to overcome that without the booze, you're going to become a better person. Most people use alcohol as some sort of a crutch. So I love the fact that you were just honest about that. It was so powerful, because the people that tell themselves they have a healthy relationship with alcohol are lying to themselves.
Yeah.
I wanted to add too, I like how you said, what would I do when I was in high school or like before I started drinking? A lot of people will say, oh, you're not drinking? That's boring. Or you don't want to go to the bar? That's boring. And it's you were doing stuff and having fun before you ever even learned what alcohol was. So I like that there too.
Yes.
Kyle Thomas, I applaud you, man. I applaud you on your efforts, your journey, everything we've learned about you and so forth in the business. Kyle, take a couple minutes here quickly before we say goodbye and wrap up the segment. Tell Business Athlete Nation how they can find you. Talk a little bit about your current business, up employment, and take the 60, 90 seconds. Plug yourself, plug the business, give Athlete Nation the reason to want to come connect with Kyle Thomas.
All right. Yeah. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just search for Kyle Thomas on LinkedIn. I'm the guy who looks like Macklemore. So come follow me.
Own it, baby. Own it.
Yeah. That's it. But yeah, like my story, so we mentioned a little bit, but I joined Uber as the 250th employee. Before that, I was working this cubicle data entry job that I hated. That realization of going from that job I hated to a life-changing opportunity, life-changing amount of money in like a venture-backed startup. It was without any sort of like additional certifications or skills or not an MBA. It was purely the approach and the methodology. And then I used it again to land a job after I was laid off from Uber. So right now we have a community, a course, tons of resources, everything that I wish that I would have had when I was making those jumps into those startups to try and like de-risk that process and to eliminate the anxiety, the uncertainty, and the loneliness of the job search, put you around some other badass job seekers that are looking for startup roles. And so that's what we do. We help people identify those companies, really get clear on exactly what they want to do next in their career, the specific characteristics of that next role that's going to help them accelerate to not just necessarily the next role, but the next role. And I think that there's no better place if you want to become an entrepreneur to learn how to do that than potentially joining one of these venture-backed companies, because you have a lot of resources. You get to learn on the fly. You get that accelerated learning process. You get to touch every aspect of the business. And so I know for me, that was the case. I know a bunch of people that came out of Uber. There's tons of founders that came out of Uber. There's tons of executives that are running other companies now that came out of there. And of course, everybody wants to join the next Uber, but we help folks to identify how can they either A, find that, which is very hard. If we were able to do that, then we probably wouldn't be teaching people to job search. We'd probably be investing, but how to identify those kind of up and coming companies and how to set up yourself in that next role for success. Even if that company closes, you can walk away being like, look, that was an incredible experience, and be far faster on the path to where you want to go than you were when you started. That's
awesome.
Very nice. Very nice.
Kyle Thomas, we met you during our creator spotlight segment a few weeks back, and we said, hey, why don't you come on the show and hang out with us? Have you enjoyed your time here with us as we have enjoyed with you, Kyle Thomas, here today?
Yeah. It's been a pleasure, guys. Loved spending the morning with you. It's been awesome.
We're doing something different. We're trying to create some new energy, some new vibe, a brand new show here in the mornings. And I invite you to keep tuning in on X, LinkedIn, and YouTube, Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Kyle, come back and hang out with us again, will you?
Will do.
Awesome. We got Jory Jensen joining us.
Thank you, Kyle. Pleasure.
We got Jory joining us for the protein break. But until then, we have this young man joining us from the Baja, John Anderson.
What we got today, John? What we got today, man?
We got a life. Johnny Anderson. Have a good one, Kyle. Take care, brother.
All right, Kyle.
Go get it, Johnny.